Most men would compromise their values to save their lives. When the ultimate test arrived, Daniel chose the lions. In the history of empires, there are legendary figures who command armies, part seas, and stand before kings with thunder in their voices. But there are also quieter heroes, ordinary people whose courage unfolds in hidden places, far from the roar of battlefields. They held no physical weapons and commanded no legions, yet their absolute, unshakable faith would challenge the greatest superpower of the ancient world. This is the story of a man tested by the shadows of political tyranny and the God who met him in the dark. This is the story of Daniel. Decades earlier, Daniel had been brought to Babylon as a captive youth. Through every shifting regime, every fallen king, and every political upheaval, Daniel remained. Now, under the vast rule of the Persian Empire, his exceptional wisdom caught King Darius's eye. Darius saw an extraordinary spirit within him and made a monumental decision. He planned to set Daniel over the entire kingdom, making him second in command over all princes, governors, and satraps. But in the halls of power, excellence breeds envy. As news of Daniel's impending promotion spread through the marble corridors, resentment grew cold and sharp among the royal officials. They watched him closely, waiting for a misstep, a hint of greed, or a trace of dishonesty. They dug through tax records, trade logs, and royal decrees, searching for any vulnerability. But they found nothing. Daniel was entirely trustworthy, neither corrupt nor negligent in anything he touched. His absolute moral clarity became an accusation against everyone else. His enemies realized the bitter truth. They would never find a flaw in his work. If they wanted to bring him down, they would have to target the one thing that mattered most to him: his unshakable devotion to his God. Driven by desperation and malice, the conspirators crafted a trap disguised as supreme loyalty. They orchestrated a grand assembly, approaching King Darius with a masterfully worded decree. "O King Darius, live forever. All the administrators, governors, and satraps of the kingdom have agreed together that the king should establish a royal statute. Whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days, except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing, so that it cannot be changed, according to the law of the Medes and Persians." Flattered by the sudden display of universal adoration and blinded by his own pride, King Darius signed the document into law. The trap was locked. Word of the edict swept through the city. For most men, discretion would be the path of survival. But Daniel did not hide. Knowing the death sentence awaiting him, he walked steadily back to his home, opened his upper room windows toward Jerusalem, and knelt down to pray 3 times a day, just as he had always done. Caught in the act, the conspirators rushed to the king. King Darius was struck with sudden, crushing agony, realizing he had been tricked into sentencing his most trusted advisor. Until sunset, he labored to save him, but the immutable law could not be changed. At twilight, Daniel was led away to the execution site. The heavy stone cover of the pit was rolled back, releasing a rush of foul air and the rumbling growls of starving beasts. Without a word of protest, Daniel was lowered into the darkness, and the heavy stone slammed shut above him, sealed with the king's own signet ring. While King Darius spent the entire night pacing his chamber floor in absolute torment, refusing sleep, a profound peace filled the den. An angel of God had shut the lions' mouths. At the very first streak of dawn, King Darius sprang from his couch and ran hastily through the palace corridors, heading straight for the lion's den. With a voice trembling with grief and fragile hope, he cried out into the opening, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?" For a brief second, there was silence. Then, echoing up from the depths of the earth, came a steady, resonant voice. "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you." A shockwave of pure relief washed over the king. He commanded his servants to pull ropes down immediately, and Daniel was lifted safely out of the dark pit. When he stepped out into the morning sunlight, the crowd stared in absolute astonishment. Not a single scratch or wound was found on his body, because he trusted in his God. True faith does not guarantee an easy path, but it always brings you through the storm. The story of Daniel is both breathtakingly inspiring and deeply challenging. It inspires us because we see a man who chose absolute integrity over self-preservation. But it challenges us because it forces us to look in the mirror and ask a hard question. Will we stand by our values when the pressure is real? We may not face a physical den filled with lions in our modern daily lives, but we face our own trials of conviction. Sometimes the pressure comes from our workplace, where a boss or a corporate culture expects us to cut corners, fudge numbers, or stay silent about dishonesty to protect our career advancement. Sometimes the pressure comes from our social circles, where friends push us to compromise our standards, mock what is holy, or join in things we know dishonor God. They tell us that everyone is doing it, that compromise is just part of surviving the modern world. But Daniel's quiet courage reminds us that not every popular command deserves our obedience, and not every voice deserves our agreement. There are critical moments when true faithfulness means saying a firm, unyielding no. No to dishonesty, no to moral compromise, and yes to God, even when it costs us our comfort or our popularity. We may not always see an immediate rescue. We may face criticism or isolation for refusing to bend the knee to modern pressures. But God sees every hidden choice made in reverence to Him. He sees your integrity when no one else is watching. May this ancient story remind us to choose courage over fear, truth over convenience, and God over every voice that tells us to do wrong.